This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Upgrade your business with Shopify, home of the #1 checkout on the planet. Shop Pay boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning fewer carts going abandoned and more sales going cha-ching. So if you're into growing your business, get a commerce platform that's ready to sell wherever your customers are. Visit Shopify.com to upgrade your selling today.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states or situations.
Hey Giants fans, this is Chris Franklin from NJ Advanced Media, and welcome to the emergency edition episode of the Talk is Cheap podcast, the show where we discuss all things related to the New York Giants. Now, before we begin and get into our breaking news, I just want to remind you all that you can read our content on NJ.com/Giants and make sure to bookmark that to get the latest Giants news and analysis. Well, the reason why we're doing this podcast right now is that the Giants have their starting quarterback. They eschewed Aaron Rodgers and decided to go with Russell Wilson. To talk about this, we have Ryan Novozinsky here with us. Ryan, how are you doing?
Well, Chris, I'm doing good. I mean, I was honestly kind of feeling like almost, I don't want to say this, I guess, on out loud and on the podcast, but I was feeling a little lazy work-wise today, but the Giants got me right back into it. You know, it felt like because this quarterback search has been like, you know, you were on your toes, yes, for like the first 2 weeks. Then it was like, all right, things calmed down a little bit. The Jameis stuff was fine the other day, but then you see the numbers and it's like, all right, he's a backup. But now it's Russell Wilson. And I did a different podcast yesterday where I talked about this. And I had said that my thoughts on the draft were now changing because of the Giants' I guess continued interest in Russell Wilson, we should say. And so, you know, I was kind of pivoting away from maybe, and I know we'll dive more into this later on, but I was at first like, all right, they're going to take Shedeur Sanders, blah, 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 blah. Now this opens up a whole heck of a lot of possibilities, including the possibility of still taking Shedeur Sanders. But again, we'll get into that in a second. But to answer your question, I'm good.
Dare I say the Giants becoming a quarterback factory? We'll talk about that in a second. But for the news, for anybody who hasn't heard yet, or is the podcast, just got the podcast into their feeds. According to ESPN, Russell Wilson is signed for a 1 year up to $21 million with $10.5 million guaranteed. He will get that. Now, Russell Wilson signed a 1 year deal last year with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He helped get them to the wild card round where they fell to the Baltimore Ravens. 63% completed 63.7% of his passes, 2,482 yards, 16 touchdowns, and 11 starts. Ryan, what was your initial reaction to the signing?
So my initial reaction is, okay, Joe Schoen can now make this, to me, in my opinion, a very good offseason, a very, very good offseason. And that would be him using Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston, rolling into the season with those two as the tandem, because I'm not high on anybody in this draft not named Cam Ward at quarterback. So he uses Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston as sort of, you know, you plug them in just for a year, and you say, listen, like maybe this was his pitch to John Mara. Listen, this quarterback crop this offseason, not even just the guys we can get in free agency, but the guys we can get, you know, in the draft, it's all going to be, they're all bad. Instead, let us build the team around them. Let us take an Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, who will almost surely be there on the one of which will surely be there on the board when we're at number 3. And let's continue to build the team around them, around the quarterback position. And then boom, once 2026 comes, we riding off a 7-win, 8-win season, which would be kind of a miracle considering how hard their schedule is next season. But once we ride off that, we can plug in the next quarterback, the quarterback of the future in the 2026 draft, which is considered to be a much better quarterback class. So that was my first reaction. I was like, all right, good. This is good. My second reaction was, oh no, man, they're still going to force something at 3 with this quarterback. Because that's what it kept coming out as, right? And at the combine, I heard over and over again how Cam Ward is just miles ahead of Shedeur Sanders, right? So my stock on Shedeur Sanders has just gone very down since then. If Joe Shane rolls into 2025 with a room of, and he wastes a top 3 pick where there are 2 potentially generational athletes right there, and he wastes it on yet another quarterback, I understand you have to find the quarterback of the future. But everything this offseason, every move the Giants have made makes it sound like they don't think the quarterback of the future is actually in this draft. If they can't get Cam Ward, which they probably can't. So at first I thought it was good. And then I was like, oh my God, no, they're gonna still maybe panic and try to get this. I think it would be really dumb to do that. I think they should, I know that rolling with Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston into 2025 is not the sexy option. It's not. It's quite frankly a little boring. But at the same time, your philosophy in free agency was, all right, we're going to try. We're not going to change anything else on offense because we think our offense was good enough. We think we're a quarterback away. Well, I'm sorry. Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward might be good. Shedeur Sanders might be good. They're not Patrick Mahomes. They're not taking you to the playoffs with this schedule, especially. Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston, same deal. They probably aren't going to do that. Unless Patrick Mahomes requested a trade to the Giants or Josh Allen for some reason, then the Giants are not going to the playoffs next year. I just don't think it's feasible. So maximize yourself next season. Make your team as good as possible around it. Then address your quarterback problem in a meaningful way next season. But roll into this with 2 solid options. And you have that now with Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson.
Well, those are good points. And when I first heard it and I looked, I was like, no, I really thought they were going to wait out for Aaron Rodgers. Personally, I think for them, they made the right decision because we all know the circus that comes around with Aaron Rodgers when you follow him around. You're going to get the appearances, what have you, politics, whatever, it's going to go around. And if you're really truly trying to rebuild this team and say you want to be successful for this season to keep your job and go forth, you don't need that around locker. I know a lot of players that play with Rodgers really like him. I know that, but it just was going to be way too much. And now when I look at it, okay, let's look at the Giants offense. Yeah, insert Russell Wilson. You have somebody who's more, in my opinion, can still get the more accurate. I think you can also have more accuracy on the deep ball as well, too. I know he's throwing the moon ball. It arcs up. I'm pretty sure that SpaceX is still tracking how he's doing that so they can do that launch because it just arcs it. But you look at the way now with Malik Neighbors, that's really going to be a good combination for him. He's probably the happiest one in there. He's probably going, thank you, Joe, thank you, Brian, thank you, because now they have a veteran guy who can lead this offense. And you look at the running game and look at this. All of a sudden now, the Giants' offense is solid. I actually like this offense now with Russell Wilson. Now, I mentioned Aaron Rodgers. Do you think that it was prudent for them not to get to stick with Wilson and not wait around for Rodgers?
I wrote this the other day, and I actually just pulled it up too. So I'm glad you mentioned the moonshots there, but Wilson was like, I think, like, again, there were definitely some troubling things in that regard last season, but at the same time, you just look at it, 20 plus yards last season, completed 54% of passes in that range. And that's compared to Rodgers, who completed 39%. And I know, we're talking like, I think that's going to be a lot better now that he has Malik Neighbors as a target out there too. In both of these signings, in Winston and Wilson, you have 2 guys that that are able to finally get something. Like whoever wins that quasi job going out of it, I think it'll be Wilson. That quasi quarterback competition. You're going to get at least one of these guys that's able to launch it deep, and that's what the Giants have been missing in their pass game these past 6 years or however long it's been. I like the fit in that regard, and I think it's like, I don't think Rodgers was infinitely better than Wilson was last year, to where you could sit here and say, oh man, yeah, he's worth waiting for. He's 41. I mean, not for nothing, and Russell Wilson's no spring chicken either, but he's 36. That is younger, obviously, than 41, right? So, and it's less dramatic than Rodgers to me. And it's again, because there's that whole circus that comes with Rodgers, like you mentioned. So yeah, I don't think he was worth waiting around for, and I think Wilson is the better option here. I've said that even going back, even before kind of this the whole Rodgers thing turned from, all right, yeah, maybe he's going to wait a couple more days, to, oh my God, he might wait till the draft to make his decision. No, I was always on the side of, I think Wilson is kind of the better fit there. And yeah, Malik Neighbors is probably going to be happy. I know he was fine with getting a veteran quarterback this offseason. And I think he obviously wanted Matthew Stafford. He was not shy about that. Wilson is not Matthew Stafford, but Wilson is pretty darn good. And I think that a lot of people kind of forget that. They kind of get lost in all right, he was supposed to be great with the Broncos and he wasn't. He obviously flamed out there. And with the Steelers, he was good, not great, 10-7, whatever. That's what they finished with. But Mike Tomlin, he benched a quarterback that had a winning record for this guy, so he's always going to play the guy that's that gives them the best chance. And who knows? I mean, maybe Russ will thrive in East Rutherford. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and we mentioned this. We touched on this beforehand. With this Russell signing, it has a direct impact on the draft. And the fact that the Titans sent their president of football operations, the general manager, quarterback coach, offensive coordinator, the head coach, they all were there to watch Cam Ward and the way he performed. It just
they sent their team reporters too.
Yeah, it's just setting up. We're going to see the behind the scenes look as they take the first round. Oh, we just knew the conversation. He said blah 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 blah. So yeah, effectively Cam Ward's out. He's going to Tennessee. It looks like. Now all of a sudden Cleveland's in play. Now they can go. They're quarterback needy because, truth be told, I don't think Kenny Pickett is the starting type quarterback or the quarterback in the future for the Browns. So they don't need a quarterback, but do they reach it to Abdul Carter? And all of a sudden, Giants are sitting there, Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter. How do you think the Giants will play with this third pick? And since you have that, do you think there's even a possibility that they trade back to try to accumulate more picks?
Oh man, I think trading back would be so smart for them, but I just don't think they'll do it. Now that's with the big caveat here. The big caveat there is, what do the Browns and Titans do? Titans, I think, are taking Cam Ward. I think that's all but a lock. The Browns is a big kind of linchpin here. What I think might happen there, what this could mean, honestly, I think I saw somebody, I don't remember who exactly it was. I think it was Palazzolo tweeted that this could mean the Giants have good information that the Browns are keen on Shedeur Sanders. That's not a guarantee, but and I don't know necessarily if I would do that if I were Cleveland, but that could certainly mean that. What the Giants should do, I think that Abdul Carter is just an absolute beast, man. I think that would be someone that, you get him in, I understand they have Kayvon, they have Brian Burns. I'm not as bullish on that duo as a lot of, I don't actually think that there are many people that are extremely bullish on them now, but there are people that, you feel like you have to keep them because Joe Shane drafted Kayvon, whatever. Talent wins, man. Talent wins. Go get the most talented guy, the best player available that you think it is. If it's Abdul Carter, great, go get Abdul Carter. If it's Travis Hunter, that's even better. I mean, that fit wise, it might even be better, is what I mean by that. because they need a cornerback. They need, Deonte Banks is, I know they're saying they're not giving up on him, but they certainly might have to. We might force their hand there. So, they view him as a cornerback. They also really liked what he can do on offense too. So I'm interested to see what packages they would kind of mix him into. To me, this just gets the gears going, man. I'm almost excited, like to dive into what different possibilities they could do now, right? Like, could they trade down? It's a good question. Could they? I don't think it's likely, but could they take one of these other two guys now? I mean, I'm going to look like an idiot when they just take Shadur Sanders at 3, and this is all going to be moot. But I'm telling you, for the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be pumping that out. I'm going to say, hey, dude, they should. The smart thing for them to do is to take Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter. I will die on that hill, and I've been trying to fight that battle even before all of these dominoes fell.
Yeah, it's very funny. You mentioned the Browns. We're looking at Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry. Taking a quarterback may save them for a season, if any, if that does do that. So I can see Sanders going out. I wouldn't do that with some of the other stuff. But you're right. You look at the two spots they have there. I wouldn't trade down, because when you look long term, the two spots that always cost the most are your edge rushers and your cornerbacks.
Right.
You look at the Giants' success in the past when they were on their Super Bowl runs, the two recent ones. What they did well was they had that rotation of edge rushers that were coming off they just kept war tackles down. And when you're in this division where you have a lot of look at the quarterbacks now in this division, Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, Dak Prescott. When you get pressure on them, that's going to take a lot of it. It's going to make them think a little bit more. So yeah, I like the Abdul Carter angle a little bit more. That being said, at least you can get by with Burns and Thibodeau. That secondary could use a lot of help. And Travis Hunter, to me, he would be right as of right now, I think he would be the best fit for his team, because it adds you another cornerback. You got a guy who's dynamic. He can shut down half the field. And then, you want to throw put him in the slot next to Neighbors and try to throw teams off a little bit. Not playing them all the time. Maybe about 5-6 plays, what have you, a package. Make teams think a little bit more and try to prepare for it. So it's going to be very interesting. I'll throw this real quick one. We know Russell Wilson has those catchphrases, Bronco Country, let's run. What do you think he's going to go out of his way to try to hammer home as his slogan while he's during his time with the Giants?
Oh man, it's got to, I don't want to go cliche and just say Giants Nation or Big Blue, let's ride. I gotta think on this. It might be like Big Blue, let's, Big Blue, let's lose. I don't know if they really like that. If they really like, they're already thinking tank mode next year, which I'm sure they're not, but, yeah, I'd have to think on that one, but it's definitely. I'm very curious to see how the whole Russ thing plays out. With all of us next year, it's gonna be a hell of a quarterback room to cover. Let's be honest with ourselves, Ed.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm going with I'm going either with a Sopranos reference. I think it's going to be one of those things, or he's going to do something off of the Big Apple, or let's take a big bite out of the Big Apple to the NFC East, or something crazy. I'm like, oh great. Sierra will just look at him like, oh, isn't he amazing? And then here we go all over again. Yeah. Well, Ryan, thank you very much for taking the time to do this. And thank you all for listening to this emergency podcast. We'll have continuing coverage of what's going on NJ.com/Giants. We'll have everything from how this impacts the Giants here when it comes to eventually the introductory press conference for Russell Wilson and much more. So for Ryan Novozinsky, I'm Chris Franklin. Everybody have a good one. See ya.